Hello and welcome to this presentation about the Stroop Effect. What is the Stroop Effect? Let's start with some background information first. We use language very often in our daily lives. We use it to describe experiences, to express emotions. And I mean, how will we be able to read without that voice narrating inside our heads? It is undeniable that language shapes our everyday reality significantly, and knowing multiple languages might even give us access to different ways of viewing the same reality. But to what extent does language have an effect on how we associate words with things? For example, if you see this, we're told to tell the color of the individual words. It shouldn't be that hard for you to find at all. But if it was replaced with words of colors instead, it takes people twice as much time to process it. That's right, it takes people about 2.5 seconds to process that previous phrase. But if you take every single word out and replace it with a word of a color, it takes them on average 6 seconds. It's astonishing, isn't it? All we did was replace words with other words, and somehow it took people about twice as much time. This shows the subconscious working of the human mind. This illustrates an undeniable fact about the human mind, that when we hear or see a word, we automatically link it to people, places, things, countries, etc. For example, when you hear the word cyan, you associate that with many things in your head. Maybe your favorite color is cyan. I know mine is. And maybe you think of Uranus. Either way, your brain associates many things with that specific color as soon as I say it. Before we delve into the Stroop Effect, we must know where the history is from and who made it. The term was coined after John Ridley Stroop. He published his first study in 1935 in the article of the Journal of Experimental Psychology. He was a respected American psychologist, and his 3 studies are still one of the most cited in psychology, even though it was conducted over 90 years ago. His first study, he told people to say the text regardless of the color. For example, if the word purple is in red, then they would have to say purple. He then recorded the time that it took people to answer 15 of such texts. After that, he reversed his formula. Now people must say the color of the text despite what it said. Referring to the previous example, if purple was written in red, they would have to say red. It's obvious that the second one is much harder, and as humans are very reading and text oriented, it became very hard for his participants to efficiently answer the questions without error. Here's the result that Stroop had collected. As you can see, it took them about 30 seconds to find and correctly name the first 15 words in the first experiment. In the second one, however, it took them a whopping 132 seconds to find and correctly name it. Well, if you're like me, you're probably very surprised about how these people were not easily able to find the colors. Well, here's your chance to find out how good you are. In front of you now will flash 15 texts with different colors, and what you must say is the color of the text, not what the text it says itself. For example, again, as referring to the previous example, if there was purple printed in red, then you would say red. Okay, ready? Keep the answer in your head and count how much you get right. 3, 2, 1, go. So how much out of 4 did he get? Not as easy as he thought, was it? What you just witnessed was technically not the Stroop experiment, as I took it a little bit. In the original experiment, he just laid down 15 items and told people to read them while timing them. Instead, I wanted to make them flash across the screen and then record the time that it would take for people to fulfill this task. Here are the results I collected. And also, I thought it would be really interesting to see how people would have reacted to different languages and see if that would have any effect on how fast they were able to spot the color. You can see, when they were shown words in English, people who spoke English, as in those who are represented by the blue, usually scored in the mid-range, between 30 to 39, which is quite a while. But when it was a language that they did not know, they scored overwhelmingly between the 0 to 19 to 20 to 29 categories. This data clearly supports Stroop's hypothesis and demonstrates the Stroop effect. Also, surprisingly, this, as in the red columns, also correspond with seeing abstract shapes. So that means pretty much we view other languages as just shapes. One version of this experiment that I would like to see is seeing people on different ages. For example, tracking a baby since they were 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 to 15. This can really show how the brain develops and how language starts to affect our lives. Is the baby going to be better at differentiating the the words from the color, or is the adult going to be? That would be a really interesting experiment. Let's end on some conclusive thoughts and a reflection. This surprisingly simplistic experiment reveals the biases in our brains. The bias that we put a word in a box and associate labels with that box, which in this case was simply color, but this can extend to many other social and complex issues in our world. This experiment demonstrates why when you see your favorite childhood heroes on TV, you automatically associate that with your friends in school, or why people are very hostile to some religions and races. Why propaganda and subliminal imagery is very powerful. What I believe is an important part of science is simplicity, making an experiment easily repeatable, easy to follow, and so briefly explainable that I can explain to you right now. Mr. Stroop's genius was that he brought light to this connection in the brain way before MRI machines were able to scan and map out the brain. He pioneered this field of science in the early 20th century from obscurity. And as Leonardo da Vinci once said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And this is why I bring to you today this highly underappreciated phenomenon and the man who started it all. That's it. That's the end of the video. I hope you really enjoyed and learned something from this. This is the Works I Did. Have a nice rest of your day and Ramadan Kareem, and have a nice summer break.